Alright, so this is your simplifying square root notes. So I'm going to do the odds of this packet, and then you are going to do the even ones. Okay, so we're going to start with number 1. We have the square root of 96. So let me zoom in quite a lot on here because you're going to need some space to write this stuff out. So zoom in just a little bit more. Thing is going to take forever. Alright, here we go. Number 1, you have the square root of 96. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down 96. And I need to pick two numbers that when I multiply will give me 96. You can use your calculator and do 96 divided by 2, 96 divided by 3, 96 divided by 6. Whatever you want to until you find two numbers that will go into 96. The two numbers that I picked are 6 and 16. And make sure you're writing this stuff down because you are going to have to turn this in, and I'm going to grade on you taking notes. The two numbers that go into 6 are 2 and 3. Two numbers that go into 16 are 4 and 4. And your two numbers that can go to 4 are 2 and 2. Nope. And then, and then your two numbers that go to 4 are 2 and 2. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to circle my prime numbers. So I have a 2, a 3, and then I have 4 other 2's left over here. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to draw that little square root. And I'm going to go ahead and write down all of my prime numbers inside the square root. So I have 5 2's that I'm going to write. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So let me cross those off because I know I'm done with all those 2's. And then I have 1 3, so times 3. Okay. What you do next once you find all of your prime numbers, and you can check because right now if you wanted to in your calculator, you can do 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. If that doesn't give you 96, you made a mistake and can check yourself right there. What we'll do next is you're going to look for pairs, okay? So you're going to look for how many pairs you have, and we're going to circle them. I have a pair of 2's right here. I have another pair of 2's, and then I have 1 2 and 1 3. When you circle it, you write it down once and cross it out. Write it down once, cross it out. Then I'm going to put my square root sign, and I'm going to write what I have left over. So what I have left over is this 2 and 3. So I'm going to write down what I have left over, 2 times 3. Okay. Well, 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. There's nothing else I can do that is simplified, so 4 square roots of 6 is my final answer. Another way you can check is in your calculator right now. You can type in the square root of 96 and get your decimals, and you can type in 4 square root of 6 and get your decimals. If those numbers don't match up with all those decimals, you made a mistake. Okay, I promise you'll get easier as we move on. So let's do number 3. Okay, my number is the square root of 98. I'm going to write down 98. I need two numbers that multiply to get me 98. So let's just do 2 and 49. Okay, I need two numbers that go into 49. And like I said, you can use your calculator and keep typing in, or if you know, 7 times 7 gives you 49. There are no numbers that go into 7 because it's prime, except for 1 and 7. So I can't split this up, because if I want to do 1 and 7, then I'd keep doing 1 and 7, and keep doing 1 and 7. It's a prime number, so we're going to stop. So I'm going to circle my prime numbers, 2, 7, and 7. So this means I have the square root of 2 times 7 times 7. Now I'm going to cross them out. There's my 2, 7, 7. There's nothing left. You look for your pairs. There's only one pair right here. It's my 7's. So I'm going to write that down once on the outside, cross it off. I have the square root, and the only number I have left inside my square root is a 2, so I'm going to put that number inside my square root. So my answer here is 7 square roots of 2. Alright, number 5. You have the square root of 72, so I'm going to write down 72. I need two numbers that go into 72. Okay, little two numbers that pop into my head, or you can, like I said, do it in your calculator, are 8 and 9. Two numbers that go into 8 are 2 and 4. 2 is a prime number. 4, I can do 2 and 2. For 9, I can do 3 and 3. 2s and 3s are prime numbers, so I'm going to stop, circle my prime numbers. 2, 2, 2, 3, and 3. So we're going to do our square root sign. I have 1, 2, 3 2's. So 2 times 2 times 2. Cross those out to show that I have those written down. And then I have 2 3's. So 3 and 3. Cross those out. I have a pair of 2's, and I have a pair of 3's. So I'm going to write the 2 down once, cross it out. 3 down once, cross it out. All I have left in my square root is this 2 right here. Okay, here you can simplify it because that says 2 times 3, and that's easy because 2 times 3 is 6. You still have your square root, you still have your 2. So the square root of 72 simplified is 6 square roots of 2. All right. Number 7, we have the square root of 45. So I'm going to write down 45. Two numbers that go into 45. I can do 5 and 9. 5 is a prime number because the only numbers that can go into 5 are 1 and 5. So I can't do anything else with that. 9, I can divide that by 3 and get 3. And 3 is a prime number. So I can't go any further. So I have a 3, and a 5. So in my square root, I just write out these prime numbers. 3 times 3 times 5. You look for your pairs. There's one pair of 3's right here. You write it down once and cross it out. And I forgot to cross these out. Do your square root sign. The only thing that you have left under your square root is a 5, so the only thing I'm going to put here is a 5. Okay, so I have square root of 45 reduces to 3 square roots of 5. Be sure when you do this, you box in your answers so that I clearly know what your answer is when I grade these. Okay, number 9, you have the square root of 343. So I have 343. I need two numbers that I can multiply to get 343. And for this one, you will have to, if you get a big number like this and you can't think off the top of your head, like I said, use your calculator. Do 343 divided by 2, divided by 3, divided by 4, until you get two whole numbers. The two whole numbers I got were 7 and 49. 7 is a prime number, so I'm going to stop there. I need two numbers that go into 49, and those can be 7 and 7. And those are prime numbers, so I have 7, 7, and 7. So in my square root, you're just going to write those prime numbers out. 7 times 7 times 7. Okay, so I wrote down all my prime numbers. There's nothing left. You look for your pairs. I have a pair of 7's right here. So 7, cross that out. Square root. I have a 7 left underneath the square root. Nothing I can multiply, reduce here. So the square root of 343 simplified is 7 square roots of 7. Alright, number 11 looks a little bit different because you have a 10 on the outside, but don't freak out, it's still really, really, really easy. Okay, so we have the square root of 96. Let's just focus on this part right here, square root of 96. Okay, if you remember, that is the problem we did for number 1. The square root of 96, when we simplified it, it gave us 4 square roots of 6. If you don't remember that, then you would do the same thing we did up here. Write 96. Do your little family tree, find your prime numbers, the exact same things we did in number 1. Okay, so you say, well, you have that 10 out in front. What am I going to do with that 10? This, if you read this, it would say 10 times the square root of 96. So I'm still going to write 10. I'm still going to write my times. But I know the square root of 96 is 4 square roots of 6. So 4 square roots of 6. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and multiply these on the outside because I can simplify that. 10 times 4 is 40. There's nothing with my square root, so if I can simplify, so I have the square root of 6. So my answer here is 40 square roots of 6. Right? Backside. I'm going to do number 13. I'm going to pick a few of these. I'm not just going to do the odds on this one. I'm going to pick a couple of these to do. I'll do 13 real quick. So we have 7 square roots of 600. Focus first on the square root part. Don't worry about the numbers on the outside. Just focus on the square root. Square root is 600. So we'll go ahead and write down 600. What this is, when we find the prime numbers, y'all know it as your little family tree. So I need 2 numbers that I multiply to get 600. So I'll do 6 and 100. Okay. 2 times 3 will give me 6. 10 times 10 will get me 100. 2 times 5 will get me 10. And 2 times 5 will get me 10. Okay, all those are prime numbers, so I'm going to circle them. So we have 2 and 3. We have 2 and 5. And another 2 and 5. Okay, ignore the 7 for right now. We're just going to focus on the square root part. So we have the square root. I'm going to write all these prime numbers. So I have 1, 2, 3 2's. So 1, 2, 3 2's. So I'm going to cross those off. I have 1, 3. Cross that off. And I have 2 5's. So I'm going to cross those off. Okay, now I'm going to circle my pairs. Here's my pair of 2's. Here's my pair of 5's. 2 and 3, they're not pairs, so I'm going to leave them there in the square root. So I have a 2, write down, cross it out. I have a 5, write it down, cross it out. And then on the inside, what I have left over is just 2 times 3, so I'm going to leave it as 2 times 3. Okay, well 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 3 is 6. You're not done, because remember, this is just the square root part. So now what we have to do is focus on the outside. We got to focus on the 7. If you were to read this, it would say 7 times the square root of 600. Well, we already reduced that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring the 7 right down here, put it on the outside, and write 7 times whatever we got when that reduced. Okay, well, 7 times 10 is 70. And then we just have the square root of 6 left over. So your answer here is 70 square roots of 6. Okay, I'm only going to do 2 more on this page. And that's going to be number 16. Let's see if I can get this. All right, here we go, number 16. 3 square roots of 405. Okay, so again, we're going to just focus on the square root part. So we have 405. I need 2 numbers that will multiply to get me 405. Okay, well, I know it ends with a 5, so 5 will go into it. 5 times 81 will get me 405. Need 2 numbers that go into 81, so I can use 9 and 9. 2 numbers that go into 9 will be 3 and 3. The same over here will be 3 and 3. Okay, so I'm going to circle all my prime numbers. 3, 3, 3, 3, and 5. And I'm just going to focus again, like I said, on the square root part. So I have the square root of, I have 4 3's. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Cross all those out. And I have a 5 left over. Okay, I can pull out my 3's. So I have 1 pair right there, another pair right there, and a square root of 5. 3 times 3 is 9, and then I have the square root of 5. Okay, but we're not done. That's just simplifying the part of the square root. You have to consider your 3 that you have out here. So now I'm going to bring that 3 over here. Okay, 3 times 9 is 27. You still have the square root of 5. And so that's your final answer, 27 square roots of 5. Alright, and the last one on this page I'll do is number 20. Okay, so we have the square root of 1,764, and we're going to do 12 times that. So let's start with this big number, and y'all can thank me for being nice and doing this really big number, because it can take up quite some space. So let me get ready for that. Alright, so we have 1,764. Okay? Just start anywhere you want. So you can divide that by 2, you can divide it by 3, divide it by 4, divide it by 5, divide it by 6. Whatever you want to. You're going to end up with the same prime numbers in the end. I decided to divide this by 4. And in my calculator, I got 441. Okay, easy. I know 4, that would be 2 times 2. 441, though, that takes a little bit of time, so you can look, and you'll see that you can do 7 and 63. 7's a prime number, so I'm good there. But now I gotta do 63. 63, I can do 7 times 9. Okay, well 9, I can do 3 and 3. So my prime numbers are 2, 2, 7, 7, 3, and 3. So I'm just going to focus again on the square root part. I'll bring the 12 back in a little bit. So I have the square root of 2 times 2, so those are gone. 3 times 3, so those are gone. And 7 times 7. Okay, so those are gone. Now you may notice, well, all of these are pairs. You have a pair of 2, circle it, write it down. Pair of 3s, okay, circle it, write it down. Pair of 7s, circle it, write it down. There is nothing left in the square root, so I don't even have to write the square root. All I have to do is just do 2 times 3 times 7. Okay? Whenever you do 2 times 3, you get 6. 6 times 7 is 42. There's no square root. If you were to check, if you type in the calculator the square root of 1,764, it'll get you 42. But what I have to remember is that I had this 12 on the outside. That was multiplying, so I'm going to bring that 12 back in down here and do 12 times 42. When you do 12 times 42, it should come out to 504. And that's your final answer. Alright, flip it over. I'm going to do a couple more now with variables, and then you will work on the rest of this worksheet. So on the next page, I'm going to go ahead again and do the odds, starting with number 1. Okay, so number 1, we have the square root of 125 and n. Just focus on the number for right now, 125. Need 2 numbers that go into 125. We can do 5 and 25. Need 2 numbers that go into 25, 5 and 5. Okay, those are my prime numbers. So here I would have the square root of, I have 3 5s, so 1, 2, 3. My thing stop being so slow. Okay, 3. I'm going to cross those out. And all I have left is an n. Okay, so I did 125 as this, and then I have an n. So I'm just going to write that out. Okay, you look for your pairs, nothing different. I have a pair of 5s right here. I'm going to write that down, cross it out, draw my square root, and all I have left on the inside is 5 times n. So I just put 5 times n. And that's your answer. It's pretty easy. Okay, number 3. 512k squared, you're taking the square root of that, so we have 512. Okay, I need 2 numbers that go into 512, and we can do 2 and 256. Okay, for 256, I can do 2 and 128. 128, we can do 8 and 16. Okay, remember 8 will be your 2 and 4. So I can do my 4 as 2 and 2. Okay. For 16, we can do 4 and 4, which again will be your 2 and 2, and another 2 and 2. Lots of 2's here. And this is why we circle them. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 2's. And that's it. There's no other prime numbers. It's just 9 2's. So over here, you're going to write out 9 2's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that should be it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, now you have a k squared. So what that means is you're doing k times k. So we're going to write that out. K times k. It looks like a lot, but I promise you it's really not that hard. Once you figure out your prime numbers and you write out the variable, how many times you have it, we're going to circle our pairs. So we have a pair of 2's, write it down, cross it out. Another pair of 2's, write it down, cross it out. Another pair of 2's, write it down, cross it out. Another pair of 2's, write it down, cross it out. And then we have a pair of k's. Okay, you only write down one time and cross it out. So if you notice, the only thing left in your square root is a 2. Okay, so we're going to simplify this some more. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, will get you your 16. You have your k, and you have your square root of 2. And that's your final answer. All right, I'm going to skip down here to number 7. We'll do 7 and 9, and then I'll let y'all go. Number 7, you have 80, so here's 80. Okay, two numbers that go into 80, we can do 2 and 40. Choose a prime number, so let's focus on 40. We can do 4 and 10. 4 would be 2 and 2. And 10 is 2 and 5. Those are all my prime numbers. So we have 2, 2, 2, 2, and a 5. So I have the square root. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 2's. So 1, 2, 3, 4 2's, and a 5. And now I'm going to focus on this p to the third power. So what that means is that you're multiplying p by itself 3 times. So we're going to write out p 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Okay, after that, you just circle your pairs. Because it's a square root, we're going to look for pairs. So here's a 2, write it down, cross it out. Pair of 2's, write it down, cross it out. A pair of p's, write it down, cross it out. And then you'll notice what you have left over in the square root is a 5 and a p. So in my square root, I'm just going to write 5 and a p. Okay, so to combine for my final answer, look on the outside. The outside you have 2 times 2, which is 4. Don't forget your p. And on the inside, you just have 5 times p. So your final answer here is 4p times the square root of 5p. Alright. Number 9, last one I'll do. We have a square root of 147, m cubed, n cubed. So I'm going to write 147. Two numbers that go to 147, 7 and 21. 21 is 7 and 3. So we have 7, 7, and 3. So I have the square root of 7 times 7 times 3. And then we're going to write out our variables. I have m to the third power, so that means I have 3 m's. So 1, 2, 3. And I have n to the third power, which means I have 3 n's. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to circle our pairs. You have a pair of 7's, write it down, cross it out. Pair of m's, write it down, cross it out. And a pair of n's. Write it down, cross it out. Okay, and then you'll see what we have left over inside of our square root. We have a 3, we have an m, and we have an n. So I'm just going to write 3m n. Okay, to make this look a lot prettier, we're going to take away the multiplication signs. So here you have 7mn square root of 3mn. And that's your final answer. Alright, so that is that. What you're going to do for the rest of the class period is you're going to work on simplifying these. If you don't finish today, it's okay. Just turn it back into the sub, and we'll give you some time to work on it tomorrow.